La Resortera.
All right, here we are for another week. How are you guys doing today?
Hey, we're doing great. Thank you.
Amazing. So if you guys saw our last episode last week, we talked about just kind of budget-friendly travel. I mean, we went on some really cool tangents. So this week we have Bastian Baker back here with Costa Rica Travels by Baker Feeling Adventures. Again, it's always a mouthful. I was practicing it before this. If you missed that episode, Bastian and his wife have this amazing YouTube channel where they, highlight their travels through Costa Rica. I just said to him this morning, I was like, I need to start sending these area tours to my clients. I mean, they have done some really cool, like walking tours, driving tours of different towns of Costa Rica, which I think is helpful for people moving, but they do focus on travel. So I think it's amazing to have that, perspective. So today, well, you guys have traveled a ton. And, you've traveled to other countries. I'm like kind of starting my travel journeys. I've been to some other countries now. So I thought it would be really great to talk to people about how you can come to a country, whether it's travel or living, but still be respectful to the culture, respectful to the people. And I think it's just something that we need to be sensitive to, because you don't want to be traveling somewhere and maybe accidentally offending people that live there in their culture. They might say, gosh, we don't want foreigners here anymore. So we don't want that to happen, right? So I thought, you guys have traveled extensively. I know Heido has. So today we're just going to share some of our experiences. So how many countries have you guys been to?
55.
55.
Wow.
I knew it. That's why we needed an expert in travel
Yeah,
here.
definitely an expert.
Amazing. So, I guess what would be I guess we'll go around the table. So maybe do you want to say, you're the guest, so we'll let the guest start first. What have been some of your travels and cultures, and how have you guys kind of tried? I know you're not going to fully fit in, like we are tourists when we go to other places, but yeah, what are some things that you could note?
Well, among those 55 countries, I've also lived in 4. So we talk about relocation and living in a place. I lived in Spain for 12 years. And one thing there's 2 things actually that are always very important, is I always try to integrate with the culture. It doesn't mean you need to change your diet or your religion, but you can integrate with the culture, show some interest. The minimum and the first thing you do is learn the language. Back in Holland, for example, we got a lot of foreigners, and we always complain that they're not willing to learn a language. So if you have that standard and you go abroad, you have to do, show the example and learn, at least try to learn the language as good as you can, and not like, but everybody speaks English, I don't care. That's the wrong attitude. And I noticed that whether you go to Costa Rica or anywhere else, when you at least try to speak the language or try to integrate, try to show interest in their culture, you get accepted a lot quicker, and people will help you. People are more than willing to help you with learning the language or whatever, rather than people that come with the arrogance of, I need this place to be like home. Mm-hmm. And that's what we notice a lot of people when they move abroad. They have that attitude that, I miss this. But back in home, this is better. Back in home, this is better. And you get the attitude from the locals. Okay, hey, listen, if your hometown is so much great and so much better than here, pack your case and go.
Get back.
Don't come here expecting it to be like home. You're not in Kansas, Dorothy. And that's very important when you go to a country. Something you said before as well is laws. There's stuff, for example, that in our country in Holland is very open-minded, that is legal, that in other countries you can go to prison for the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. So it's wise before you go to a place to do a little research in rules, regulations, legalization of certain substances, even as alcohol or drugs, or what is doable, wearing skirts, wearing short sleeves, certain behaviors. For example, in Dubai, if you're not married, you're not allowed to hold hands, which is an offense. You have to know these kind of things to avoid problems. But most important is that you always know you are a guest. Mm-hmm. So I lived in Spain for 12 years, and even after those 12 years, I said, I'm here. I got my paperwork, I got my residence, but I'm a guest in your country. So I will behave like a guest. Like if you go to someone's house, you're not going to trash the place, right? You don't do that. So you don't go to a country expected to be just like at home. Because then what did you leave home for?
Exactly.
So I think that's the main take, is that you have to be willing to integrate and adapt. And even if, for example, you come to a country, you don't like the food, you don't like the religion, that's great. You don't need to eat their food, but you need to respect their rules.
Yeah.
I think that's the main take.
Yeah, I totally agree. I have traveled, never lived in another place besides United States when I was a kid, teenager. But I do agree with what you just said as far as the food. When I went to Jamaica, I love Caribbean food, but their specific Jamaican food, after 3 days, I was like, all right, man, I'm I need me my gallo pinto again. I need my Costa Rican food again. But I mean, that didn't mean that I was gonna be disrespectful to their food or whatever. I just have to find something that it will please me. For example, when we went to Cartagena in Colombia, uh, you pretty much when you're doing tours, you either get fish or chicken. And after 2 or 3 days of doing the same tour, like you're like, all right, I'm done with the fish. I want like soup, or I want something else, or I want me a bistec or a chuleta or something like that. And when you fly back home, you're like, all right, I'm gonna go get what I was missing. So yeah, and as far as the language, like I said, I never been to, like I never live in another country besides Costa Rica or the States. But you gotta accommodate yourself according to the country that you're gonna be living in. Like if you go to Saudi Arabia, you have to learn the language if you're gonna be
Yeah.
living there for a while.
And the culture is really different. Like we said before, uh, every culture, every country, it's so different and diverse. It's really interesting to discover while you travel to see these different cultures. Like you go to Asia, it's a different world than when you go to Arabic countries like Morocco. It's a different world to see, different flavors, different smells, different food, everything, which is really interesting to learn about and discover. But you need to respect the rules and their way of life.
Yeah, and I mean, Heido, you had your experience living in the United States. So essentially, you had to also go and adjust and
Oh,
learn
yeah.
a language
Oh,
and
yeah.
learn different, maybe social things or rules. My question: so you've traveled. I aspire to have that many countries on my roster. Hopefully, one day I'm going to be starting more of my travels. Do you feel that learning the language as a tourist, like, okay, for example, maybe in December, I'd like to go to I told you, Germany, Austria, Switzerland. I don't know how to, like, how am I going to learn German and all that stuff? Do you find that as you've traveled and it's just temporary, not like living in a place that people are a little bit more understanding? Or do you try to learn certain phrases before you go to a
I'm a
new
geek.
country, even if it's like just for a few days?
I'm a geek.
I love that.
I love
though.
that.
You do your homework.
I do my homework. Besides that, if we go, for example, we're doing a tour through Egypt for 2 weeks, and we had 2 tour guides. And yeah, I want to learn stuff. So what's good morning, good night then, and what's this, what's that, and I pick up languages pretty quick, which is a virtue. So for me to go to a country, I don't need to speak your language in a week because I won't. But I would at least like to be able to greet you and to thank you and to ask for things that I might need or ask for the way. So when I come back next time and I put all of this in my phone, so when I go back to a place, I revise my Polish or whatever language it is. And it's not about me learning their language, but to have a certain basics that when I come there, one thing that we did learn is the more you know in a language or you try to, the more doors it opens for you. People are way more friendly. People will do things for you. People will walk the extra mile. And that's the same here. When we came to Costa Rica, which was unplanned, we were in the plane and I'm like, hey, they speak Spanish, which is good because I speak Spanish. And we have noticed in these last 4.5 years, if that wasn't the case, we would have problems because not everybody speaks English. So it's important to have at least some basics. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. And I liked what you said about like people acting like a guest. And I've seen that firsthand of people kind of forgetting that here. And I know that's something that frustrates me. I've seen it frustrate the locals. I've seen examples of it in my own community. So just as public service announcement, you are going to be a guest in someone's country. So definitely, don't do things that I've seen as typical. I've seen like honestly a sense of arrogance from some people that have moved here. Thank goodness, not really people that I've worked with. Everyone that I've worked with seems to be really down to earth. But no, I've definitely seen a level of arrogance from some people, and especially a little bit in the area where I live. you know. But some of it, I'm just like, where'd you all find the audacity? Like, where is the audacity of some things? So
Please stay home.
please, I mean, if any of you happen to be watching this, like, rethink things. I just had my own bad experience last week with someone like that, and it's just frustrating.
I mean, I understand if, for example, we're coming from a very cold country, so people come here for the weather. I understand that. You come for the beach, it's a beautiful country, you come for the weather, whatever. But you have to realize it's not there for you. It's there for the people that you know, for Costa Rica, it's the Costa Rican country, it's their culture. You're coming here to visit, whether it's for a week, for a year, or for your life. It's not just you coming to a place where it's nice weather and it's all the benefits for you. There's going to be stuff you're not going to like. There's going to be stuff that's going to surprise you. There's going to be stuff that's going to disappoint you. There's going to be people that's going to disappoint you. But that's going to happen everywhere. And you have to just be, you know, for sure, when you come here, what are your expectations? What are your needs? And find a way that you know, we miss stuff from Holland, for example, but that doesn't weigh against all the things that Costa Rica has to offer. So you have to kind of make a balance. And if it doesn't work for you, I always say, if you go and live in a new country, it takes a year to adapt.
Mm-hmm.
If after a year you still don't feel that this place is your home,
It's not
go
for you.
somewhere else. It's not for you.
Yeah.
Well, I did want to ask you. I mean, you've been all over the world. 55 countries is a lot. What's your perspective of Costa Rica culture and people?
Well, I can honestly say from 55 countries, I'm not saying that because I'm sitting here right now. I say this on my channel and to everybody I meet, and that does or doesn't want to hear it. If you ask me top 3 countries, it's Costa Rica, Argentina, and South Africa, in no specific order. And the main reason for that is the flora, the fauna, the people, the way of life, the pura vida lifestyle, the food, the culture. It's a mix of everything, and that goes for all those 3 countries. But especially in Costa Rica, the people are very warm. The people are very kind. It's all you make friends very easy. People talk to you very easy. If you're struggling, for example, my wife is learning Spanish and she's struggling, people are more than happy to have the patience. Hey, take your time, you know, no hurry. Pura vida, it says everything. And that's something you can't find anywhere else in the world.
So you kind of embrace the pura vida.
Oh, for sure.
Living in the pura vida.
Oh, for sure. We fell in love with this country really quick.
Love it.
Yeah, I think it's important. We did a whole episode on like making community connections, and I know we talked about how, like, you know, just saying good morning, So, okay, quick example. Went on a walk with my dog, walked past the guy who sells the pipas. There was a guy next to him by his motorcycle. Said good morning to both of them. Got down further, had an issue with my dog and some other dogs that were loose with that crazy gringo that I kind of mentioned earlier. Anyways, kind of turned into a mess. My dog starts running home, and he's got to cross the highway. You know, the leash snapped. I started, you know, because he was being attacked, essentially. Anyways, the Tico guy with the motorcycle, you know, I walked by, said good morning, came immediately on his bike, said, hop on, let's go get your dog, you know, and just immediately. So it's like just those little things, and I've just seen Costa Ricans so many times just jump into action, and I've named examples on past episodes, and gosh, I can have a whole new example every week.
And now that you mentioned that, it's not just the ticos. It's people like you that are not Costa Ricans that you embrace the tico living. Because remember when I came to your house when we started the podcast idea, my wife had to leave because my daughter was sick. So Sarah dropped me off on the highway, and I was allegedly going to wait for the bus. And I was like, the bus here goes every now and then. I'm going to get a ride to Jacó. And then I started, you know, going like this, hey, you know, waiting for a ride. And this guy with a surfboard pulls up. And it turns out it was a guy from California. And he gave me a ride all the way to Jacó. So he embraced the pura vida. He picked up someone that was in need of a ride. And he didn't know me.
It's contagious.
Exactly.
Totally.
That's the word.
It's a contagious lifestyle. And because you see it works, you see people are more chilled, more laid back. I'll give you a stupid example. Our fridge broke last week. The guy had to come back 2 times. And we were like twice, 4 days without a fridge. Back in Holland, I would have made a fuss. I would have got this guy out at 4 o'clock at night. You come to my house right now and fix it. They're like, okay, so the fridge is broken. We just throw in some bags of ice and the guy will come when the guy will come. Pura vida. We're not going to sweat it. We're not going to die. It's not going to be the end of the world. So it's not really a waste of energy to get upset about it. And that's kind of the lifestyle that we counter here. It's all pura vida.
Yeah, I think it can definitely rub off on you if you let it. Because I think we've all seen
Yeah.
examples where some people, it just never rubs off onto them. And then those are the people that really struggle.
And those are the people that should find somewhere else to live. And it doesn't mean go back home. And it means like this is not the place for you. Then there's plenty of places, and which is also one of the reasons we travel, because we know that Holland is not our home turf. For me, Spain is not my home turf. So we go to all these countries to discover which place would be our idealistic place to eventually settle down. And Costa Rica is way on top of that list for sure.
Nice. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. I know, Heido. So, what are some? Have you traveled to not? I know, other than the United States, I know you've been to other Latin American countries. Have you been over to Europe or anywhere else?
Well, I'll tell you this quick story. When you mentioned that in Dubai, you're not allowed to hold hands or anything like that. I went to Qatar
Oh, okay.
for it was before the World Cup. It was how do you say, like the last chance for Costa Rica soccer country to get into the World Cup. And they told us like you can wear like the type of t-shirt that you have is not allowed. If you're wearing, women can wear shirts. Like if you're not married, you can't hold hands. They told us all that type of stuff. Once we got there, and I don't know because they were preparing for the World Cup or whatever, I saw a woman in like little how do you call them, the
Like spaghetti straps.
spaghetti traps, and women in skirts, and I was like, I mean, it's not really what they tell you.
Who
And
told you though?
all like he mentioned it.
Oh,
like
I was just
all-
wondering if
all-
like it was someone specific.
No,
that
like,
was like
on the internet, the
okay.
travel agency that we work with. I mean, they were giving us all these bunch of rules that once we got there, like we're really dressed as they told us to, but I saw other people that was not
They didn't get the memo.
exactly, but I didn't see them getting in any type
Oh,
of
okay.
trouble.
maybe they understood. Maybe it was a special circumstance for the World Cup.
That's what I thought.
Because Missy, my friend, she was in Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, all that stuff, and she stopped, did a whole day in Qatar on the way back. And she said that, it was very conservative, but they had the choice. The women could wear long sleeves and jeans if they wanted, but she said it was a beautiful, amazing, clean
Oh,
city.
yeah. Oh
And,
yeah,
so
super clean.
that's some place.
Hot. Well, when we were there, it was hot, and again with the food. I mean, we were there 3 days, and I was ready to leave because, like you said, if you don't embrace the culture or if you don't think you can fit there, don't be there.
It's a hard time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Don't be there. And after, I think we were there like 3 nights and 4 days, something like that. And after my second or third day, I was like, all right, I'm ready to move from here. Because no disrespect or anything, but it's too hot. The food is not, really what I like. So I was ready to go hop to another place.
Yeah.
And you couldn't say it any better. Like if you don't like the place, if you don't feel comfortable, leave.
Well, that's a thing that we see a lot, and I'm not gonna go naming, but you've got a lot of countries where people go in groups, and then that happens a lot if people don't integrate. Is that they hang around with people from their own country, so you get like clusters, clusters of Dutch people, clusters of Dit, and the danger with that is that those people often don't learn the language or don't integrate because they're among the fellow country people. And what you get in some countries is that they try to change the people. Like, okay, I come from Holland. I will teach those Tico's to learn Dutch. I will teach those Tico's to eat
that's
Dutch
not
food.
how it
I will
works.
teach those Tico's about Dutch culture. And I'm not saying that it happens in Costa Rica. This happens everywhere in the world where there are certain people that trying to change the rules. And that's what makes people angry, especially back in Europe. Like, hey, you come to our country, you're getting benefits from our government where we pay taxes for that, and then you come and change our culture. And it makes people angry.
Yeah.
And that's why I really press on, if you come here, it's not your country, it's Costa Rica. Read into it. Travel around, get to know the people, get to know the culture. If it's not your cup of tea, go somewhere else. There's plenty of places to choose from that are not your home country that might be more fitting to your needs.
Agree.
Totally. Coming to Costa Rica. Okay, look, they have to try the Dutch bakery baked goods, and then who knows? Maybe that's not what the country wants. So
There you go. I mean, you can give your baked goods for your own friends and your family, but don't try to change the place you're going to, especially if you come from a place that you didn't like or you're not happy with, and you try to find something that's more fitting to you. If it's not here, then go find somewhere else. And otherwise, you're going to be unhappy and you're going to make people miserable in your surrounding area.
I agree.
Totally. Well, I think this was good, kind of a good chat on definitely integrating. I guess the only thing I would say about, I mean, maybe how I did was learning the language, being super friendly, waving. I mean, I'm in my early days, don't tell my mom, I did a fair amount of hitchhiking myself. I lived down in Dominical, so just up and down that mountain. So yeah, just not being afraid to do the pleasantries and smile and wave, try with Spanish, because you're right, that gets you so far here. And now I know that as I want to expand my travels, there are countries I want to go to that aren't Spanish speaking. I got Spanish, so I will be learning my basic phrases, and I'm going to go practice them, and hopefully that'll enhance my experience, and I'll report back.
Patience and a positive attitude go a long way.
Yeah,
I love it. I love your vibe because I can definitely tell it's very pura vida.
Thank you very
Very
much.
positive vibe, very, very nice feeling about, of embracing the pura vida style.
It's a happier life, and that's what we're all looking for, right?
It is. As we started this 2025, over a month now, I did tell my wife, one of my, how do you say when you say you want to do something new every year?
resolution like
One of my New Year resolutions was to be living more in the pura vida than I already live by. Because I believe I already live by the pura vida style, but I want to embrace it even more. And I can tell you definitely embrace that pura vida.
For sure.
I think I need to as well, a little bit. We all need it.
Well, it's like the thing is, try to stop worrying about things. Like it's the Hakuna Matata, right?
Yeah.
And it sounds very simple and very cliche, but that's kind of the thing. Everything will work out the way it needs to work out. You need to trust in whatever you believe in, and be happy with the things you have. Be grateful with the things you have, and try to worry as less as possible.
Yeah. Last year, and this is something personal I'm going to share, I kind of did a couple bad business that are haunting me this year, financial wise speaking. And I'm not gonna say I'm not worried. I'm just let it go. I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah.
It already happened. Nothing can be erased or be done about it. Bad business happens, and just keep on going. Keep on moving.
It's not about what happens. It's about what you do with it, how you respond to it, your
Exactly.
perspective, your reaction. And that's with everything in life.
And that's what I'm doing with it. All right, it already happened. I just gotta, face whatever happened, keep on going, and be as pura vida as you can, to face whatever situation it is.
Well, but like I said, challenges are there for you to learn something. And if you try to see every situation as a learning curve, like, okay, what did I learn from it? What did I gain from it?
Oh, yeah.
Then it's always a win. There's no losing.
Yeah, because I met people that, oh my God, you know what? Such a bad business. What a mistake. And they keep on regretting. What are you going to get by regretting yourself so much? Nothing, man.
Wasting time
Exactly.
and worrying. Yeah.
Exactly.
Just learn from it, and maybe at some point in the future, you never know. It might be, oh, thank goodness that happened.
Oh, of
I don't know
course.
why or how. Maybe that hasn't
Everything
happened.
happens
with
for a
Yeah,
reason.
but for
you
sure.
know, maybe it could be years down the line. You might look
Yeah.
back and like, man, if that actually didn't happen, I wouldn't have done X, Y, Z and be where I am today. Who knows?
100%. I had this conversation, funny enough, a week ago with my wife. Like, if that wouldn't happen when I was, I don't know what age, we would have never moved to Spain. I would have never met my wife. I would have never learned Spanish.
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't be sitting here right now. I
Exactly.
probably would have had some shitty office job back in Holland. Who knows? So everything happens for a reason in the end.
Well, I did tell my story in the very first episode that how I got deported. And if I would stay in the States and never got deported, I wouldn't be sitting here like you just said. My life will be completely different.
No, like I wouldn't be doing a podcast. And
Exactly.
I think I went back to when I was like 14 years old. My best friend I had at the time had a boyfriend, and then his brother came and picked them up to take them to the movies. And because of that moment, if that hadn't have happened, I wouldn't be in Costa Rica.
There you
It's
go.
kind of a crazy thing as to how it all. I was 14 years old. If that had not happened, I wouldn't be here.
There you go.
All because my best friend, was dating this guy named Kevin, and his brother came to pick them up to take them to the movies. His older brother. It's so crazy.
And look where we at.
But that's
Right?
why I say if there's something happening, I always try to think it happens for a reason. So
Yeah.
it might be very painful or difficult or stressful, whatever it is at the moment, and trying to be in peace with it. Eventually, I will find out why things happen or not. Like I said, we plan to go to travel around the world, starting in Australia. we had everything set. We ended up being homeless, carless, and jobless in Holland with the borders closed. Why is this happening? And look where it got
There
us
you go.
in Costa Rica for 4.5 years, living in paradise and everything going the way that we want, and everything's going great. So we were sad back then, like, why is this happening, and frustration. And now you're like, hey, look where we are. So now I learned, okay, this is happening. We'll find out why. We'll see what we get out of this, what we learn from this situation, and we move on.
I love
Right.
it. I love it.
Yep.
Cool. We've all learned a lot. This has been a really good episode. Thank you
Definitely.
again for being here,
Thank you for having
sharing.
me.
Yeah, for
Pleasure.
sharing your perspective, your expertise, I feel like I hope every episode of the podcast people get these like nuggets of
Yeah.
whether just things that make them think or just information, things that are helpful to them. So I
That's
hope
what we're here for, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. All right. Thank you for tuning for another week of Pura Vida Perspective. I got to tell you, Sarah, it feels good to be back.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. I'm happy to be back too.
All right. Have a good one. Pura Vida.
Pura vida.
Esto fue una producción de La Resortera.